Welcome to the Open Mic Podcast. I'm your host, Noah Jones. Today we have a very special guest with us. He is the conductor of the Mansfield Symphony Orchestra, and Octavio Mas-Arocas. Is that how I pronounce your name?
That's close enough. That's
Close
good.
enough? My
Octavio
accent is not what it
Mas-Arocas.
was.
No, it's great. It's great.
Excellent. Well, how are you doing today? I'm so excited
Good.
to have you here.
I'm very excited to be here. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well, thank you. So you've been with the Mansfield Symphony for a little over a year, is that correct?
Exactly. As the music director, this is my second year, so we are in the middle of the season of the of my second year. So yeah.
How would you sort of explain how it's going? I
It's
went
great.
to a rehearsal or a performance, and I was blown away by how good it was.
Oh, thank you. We are very glad to hear that. So no, it's going great. It's the orchestra sounds great. It's just wonderful communities. The Renaissance is just wonderful. It's just wonderful people there. We've been putting great shows and we have great ideas coming up and so things are going and we are committed to just reach out to the community and to just engage with people. So we are working and we're working hard to just make Mansfield and the people of Mansfield proud of their orchestra. Yeah.
Now, I understand that you are the conductor, or you're involved in at least in some way with multiple orchestras.
Right.
Can you just sort of briefly tell me which ones you're the conductor of?
Right. So I hold positions with the Marquette Symphony Orchestra, which is in Michigan.
Okay.
And that's in the Upper Peninsula. So if those of you who know that Michigan is up there north, and it tends to be cold. It's a wonderful place also. So I'm principal conductor of the Marquette Symphony, music director and conductor of the Mansfield Symphony, and then I am the resident conductor in a festival in California, in Santa Cruz, and that's the Cabrillo Festival for New Music, and I'm also just the director of orchestras at Ithaca College, where I also teach master students to just do what I do. So, yeah, and there actually at Ithaca I have 3 orchestras to take care of. So yeah, I'm a pretty busy person. Yeah,
That's awesome. You must have a large wardrobe for all the different climate changes that you have to work in.
actually it's. Yes, but it turns out to be that here, I mean, it's this weather, Ithaca, Mansfield, Marquette, is very similar. You know,
Okay.
Marquette perhaps is a little colder, but Ithaca is also very cold. And then when I go to California, it's always wonderful weather. So
Yes, I'm
and,
sure that's one of your favorite spots.
yes, mostly, I love all the places that I am, but I'm from Spain. And we have a lot of sun in Spain,
Yes.
and we are. I live like roughly 25 minutes from the beach, so that's something that it's come closer to what home was. But I really enjoy the weather here. I mean, the people ask me like, how do you do in winters? Like being from Spain, and I learned to enjoy them. So I like snow. I like my activities in the snow whenever I have time. I cross country ski. I like to do that, and just I like go downhill ski. Just there are a few mountains around that I can do, and I have little kids, so we have fun in winter with that. So I think the important thing is just to be comfortable with in any situation and just enjoy it, and just if it is just in the beach with sun, or if it is just in the snow with mountain, whatever it is, and I try to just enjoy it. So
Now, since you brought up your hometown of Buñol, Spain, is that
Buñol.
Buñol?
That's
I was-
harder. Buñol.
Yeah, Brittany Schock, one of our reporters here, one of our newly named editors at Richland Source, wrote a story about when you first came, because she has connections at the Renaissance Theater, and she was mentioning that you sort of always knew that you were going to be a musician, and she talked about these two almost rival gangs. Can you just talk to us a
Yes.
little bit about how you grew up with music?
Right, and that's kind of like a good way to describe it, rival gangs but instead of using guns, they are using music. So they use instruments. So so there, in this little town of Spain that is just roughly 10,000 inhabitants, there are two huge bands, and these two bands, they come from one single band that they split it many years ago in the 1880s. So this band is just really old. So it's just and so it was integrated in the community, the music itself. So because these two bands split it, half of the town just belongs to one, and half of the town belongs to the other one. So they are doing all this, just compete to see who is better. And so, but these are like enormous. These are huge bands. I mean, these are like 160 in each of the bands, with youth orchestras, youth bands, with choirs. They each of them, they have their own theater, and they have movies, and they bring artists, and each of them and all that in a town of 10,000 inhabitants. So when you are born, you're born into one of the bands. So I was born into the liters, that is called the liters, like los litros, and just it's a long story, but they were called the liters because the first rehearsals that at the beginning, when there were just a few people in the 1880s, they used to rehearse in a winery. So after the rehearsals, they will drink from the liter.
So that was the fun band.
Right, that was right, exactly. And the other one is called the uglies, the feos, los feos, uglies, because one of the first conductors was very ugly, and so the other people would say, when they were just marching through the street, they would say, "Here comes the uglies."
Gotcha. So you were not a part of that.
I am not, but I mean, you can imagine like half of the town just like with fairly defends the uglies, and the other one just the other half defends the liters, like, which, drunkards and ugly people. So it's just kind of like but they are very proud of being that. So it's just I mean, they are not ugly or drunkards anymore, but that's the name. And just so if I would have just been born in a family of the ugliest, belong to the band, I would be just be saying, I'm an ugly, I'm just really just proud to be an ugly, and I just like, my life isn't here, and just, but it just happened that I was just born on the other band. So you couldn't imagine actually just being born on a family that belonged to the liters and just switching to the other band. And that would be just like, you might be just like they would have cut your inheritance or something. Like, it would just be like dismissed from the family. So that's the passion that these two bands or guns just generate in town, and everybody in one point or the other, they're related with music and the bands. So in most families they have musicians, and so and I remember all my friends. They started in one point or the other playing instruments. Then little by little, some people stop, some people just only have it as a hobby, just to be amateur. But most of them just become professionals. So we have a town of 10,000 inhabitants that, because of that tradition and because of that rivalry, is just producing professional musicians. And they are all over Spain and even, the world. I mean, it's this town, musicians, they can work in there because it's just, there are too many musicians and there are only a few music-related jobs in the town. So they need to just go all over.
So how many members were in each band?
Well, when the band comes together, the big band, in each one, there might be around 160.
Okay, so we're looking almost like the same size of a big city symphony.
Yes, and even more. I mean, you're thinking like this is just it would be like twice of a size of a big city symphony. I mean, when I was a kid, the first time that I played in the band, because you go through these traditions, you have to have some years of your instrument, then you go to the youth band, you play in the youth orchestras, and then when you're ready, they come. And if you are, they say, okay, now you're ready to play in the band. So there are these trials and so on. Then you finally play in the band. So it's just they have all these systems set up that everybody feels very proud to be playing in the band, and actually just all your family and your friends is just like, wow, you're playing in the band now. So it's just, and once you grow up and you just figure out how they do it, just you realize that it's just a little bit, they're tricking you a little bit into believe that, that all the grayness that is around it, but they do really well actually. So but I remember when I was just, I don't know, 13, 14 years old, something like that, when I just first started playing with the big band, with the big guys, before I was playing with the other one, with the youngest, and to me that was one of the most special days in my life, and just like I would go there and all these people playing their instruments, and I would be like almost scared, but you will be looking around, and when everybody would be there, there were like, I was a trumpet player, and there might be 18 trumpets, so that's incredible. And from all those 18 trumpets, I would be the first times I would just be in, of course, in the back of the section, in the last row of those. And then I would look up, and then I would look, and there would be all these professional trumpets that they would be just playing all around the Spain, all around the country. Professors from Madrid Conservatory, players from the best orchestras in the country, and they were sitting there next to me. So that's very impressive. So it's very unique, and they still, when they go into that level, they consider themselves part of the band, and so whenever they can, they come and they play, and they are the leaders or the uglies, and they feel very, very proud and passionate about that.
So you're 8 years old when you get your first trumpet, and the conductor gives you the trumpet because the band that you're in needed trumpets, according to the story that I read by Brittany. So you're in this band now that you've looked up to for your entire childhood. What is sort of the feeling? I mean, I'm sure that there's a big sense of pride, and are you in the same band with your father at this point? And talk to me a little bit about sort of the thrill of getting to sort of live out your childhood dream.
So, like you mentioned before, since I remember, I don't remember anyone asking me what you were going to be doing when you grow up. It was just what instrument you're gonna be playing, and they wouldn't ask me even later. It wouldn't be what's gonna be your profession. It would be like where you are gonna be playing, or what are your goals as musician. It was not really another question. It was just like, you're gonna be a musician, and that's it. So I do remember like when that big step of going to the big band happened. I remember like my grandmother just telling everybody in town, and just like my parents being very proud, and just everybody, and just in the band just welcoming, and just being just like telling you how proud they are that you just finally made it, but also how the responsibilities are. It's just very serious, because there are also all these older people that have been, that's their life, and just they're like, this is this is a big responsibility. You just need to be prepared and ready, and you are now one of us. You just make sure that you are just like, be calm and ready, and just blah blah. And so that's at that point, it is just like you finally made one of your goals in life, just become that, and then you just realize, okay, now I need to just keep practicing. So just what I want to do is just be moving up in the section, and be playing better parts, and be playing more, and just be contributing more, and there are moments in those keep happening. You just keep moving, and in one point, this person move on, and you just move into their seats or whatever, and you have to just play these solos or whatever, and then those are like the most amazing moments when you have to finally just play a solo in front of all these people. It's just incredible. So yeah, I mean, my father actually was part of the committee of the, let's say, the board, not the board, but part of the association, but he was not a musician, because he was just the oldest of the kids in his family, and there were like 6. And so he, and he was born in a time that of needs, so he just had to take care of the kids, of his brothers, and he couldn't just be in the band. But my uncles were in the band, and of course, I still remember when I was 5, 6 years old, 4, 5, around that time, my uncle coming to my house and just sitting in the couch with my father, listening to these big symphonies, and just they were like, putting vinyls in the machine and like listening very attentively, just very quiet, just having a drink maybe, and just like I would just pick him and just sometimes sit within the couch, and I was finally sitting with my uncle just playing there. So that was just a very, very special. So yeah.
So at what point did you move to the United States to conduct and teach?
So in one point in my life, I realized that I really wanted to be a conductor, and I pursued that. And the way that the education for conductors was at that time in Spain was a little bit slow. You had to just complete these many courses, these many things. And when I realized about it, I keep doing it. I was doing it because I thought it was just really important things. Composition, piano, harmony, all those things that a conductor, the theory part of the conducting that we need to know. But the way that in that system, when I was growing up, worked was that you had to complete all those courses before you could start conducting. So I just kind of like did conducting. I was studying conducting on the side because I was already working doing things, conducting, and just being engaged as a conductor in many different places. So I needed to have some training. I couldn't just wait until I was just 40 years old to start conducting until finish all the other things. So I fly all around Europe, studying with teachers and in different places and officially. And then one of my conducting teachers in Italy, which I did that was just a diploma that I did there. And so my teacher said, so why don't you just go to this place in United States? I know the teacher is really good, so he recommended me to come here to a month-long workshop. And I came to the United States. This was at Bard College in New York. And then I really liked the teacher and the work ethic and everything very much. And I knew that I learned then that they had a master's program. So I just I decided to audition at that point for him to start next year, and then the year after that. And that's how everything started. So I came on a summer, I stayed here for this long workshop, and then at the end of the workshop, I auditioned for my teacher, and the year after that, I just came to study my master's degree, and then I stayed here for some moments. A couple of years, I was coming and going more from here. I was doing more the trip from United States to Spain, coming and going. But then trying to figure out where my base home could be. But then I decided that United States could be my base home, and then from here I just do my trips to other places around, in Europe and South America and also around the country and so on. Just in addition of my current positions, I also have guest conducting engagements, and whenever I can, the other my positions allow me to do. But yeah.
So I'm trying to think of how I want to ask this. What is the biggest difference, or is there a noticeable difference between the way Americans learn music instruments and the European or Spanish way?
Yeah, there is. And I should say at this point, at least there was, because I'm not completely sure how it is right now in Spain. I know that even when I was a student, the system was changing, and so they changed the education system for music, and then they changed it again. So they're having some changes. So I'm not completely sure how it works right now, but it's just my guess is just it's very similar to how it was back then. So the main difference is, and I remember I had already graduated with my trumpet. I had already a master's degree in trumpet when they started. No, it was before. No, sorry. I was already in high school. Around my first years in high school when they established music in the school, in public school. Before that, you had to go outside. So, but the public school music is very different than here. So it is more like orff instruments. I don't know if you know that. It's just more like playing recording and just percussion instruments, learning the theory and so on, but not really just playing the instruments as they do here. So they, in many high schools and middle schools and not elementary, but in many schools here, they have orchestras and bands. They might not have those in there. Those are outside.
Right.
So for instance, the two bands that I was saying, they in my town, each of them they have a school of music, and actually it's a really good school of music, which becomes with a tradition and just the gang rivalry that we were talking about, because each of them wanted to have the best teachers. And so I didn't realize, but when I started my very first lessons as conducting and solfege and so on, they were with the best teachers around. So just only because of my town, how the rivalry just work. But that's how it's just very similar to how it works, especially in small towns. There is just a barn, a society, and with this society they have a music school, which doesn't have to do anything with the high schools or elementary schools. They're outside. They're kind of like private. Although it's private that belongs to the city, so it's kind of like this very civic situation, and so they have a music there. They, in most cases, they own instruments. So that was my case. They own instruments, so they give me my first instrument and my first lessons, and I had to pay. My family was paying a quote to be part of the society, and just with that, I would just get the conducting, the music lessons and so on. And so that's the difference that from the very beginning in Spain, even though it is outside the school, is a very serious music. It's you get probably a more individual and a more in-depth training at the beginning, which you can't get that if you are only just taking music in high school or the other schools. If you only just go there and you have your orchestra time, that's not enough. While it's wonderful, and I have a great respect for music educators in this country, because they do so much, but that's not enough. And so the way that they do it in Spain is just you start very early, and you had this solfege and theory and dictation and all these elements of music that you can read, and you can just interact with music earlier, and then you get into the instrument, and then you have a very good teacher that teaches you the instrument right at the beginning. So by the time that I was 14, I was just playing at a very high level.
Gotcha.
For instance. Yeah.
I would like to go back just to one of the things you said, sort of the culture of the music that you were involved in. You mentioned that it was pretty quiet. There wasn't a whole lot of noise in the background. That's pretty much how symphony music is, classical music, any type of opera sort of thing like that. My father was a member of the St. Louis Symphony while I was growing up, so I'm pretty familiar with sort of that sort of high art or highbrow sort of type of music that you go to. You get all dressed up and you sit very still. You don't whisper to your dad that you have to that you're bored or something, or whatever you are when you're younger. And when I went to the Mansfield Symphony with you for the Pops concert, it was very opposite of that. And I thought that it was a ton of fun. Clapping and singing along was very wanted. It was a good word for that. Talk to me a little bit about the difference between sort of have you noticed a shift, or is that just something that you've brought to your own shows?
I think it's when we just look at the symphony, it's just there are some concerts that are more that kind of engagement with the audience is more appropriate, I would say, and some other concerts that are more, I wouldn't say just sit quietly and but more just letting the music sink in.
Sure.
And than others. So the holiday pops, which we have a number of pieces, a lot of pieces, different pieces and different styles, shorter and many of them, and some of them are very familiar. Some of them just require the orchestra, the audience to just sing along with us, and so. It's a different kind of performance. Then when we have a more what we call masterworks, in which we might have we play a symphony, and a symphony, you're not gonna start clapping in the middle of the symphony, but that doesn't mean that you need to stay there quietly and just doing anything. I think that that if you go there to listen to the music and interact with the orchestra and with the audience, you will find that there are pieces and there are moments in which you yourself might not want to do that. That you might want to just sit down and just enjoy that. And there are moments within the performance that just you can relax and you can just maybe even just let go. So even just in between movements, I don't mind, like, people just sometimes they clap in concerts, and I just turn around and say, well, thank you very much. That's very nice of you. and that's fine. But this is actually really funny. This is a very interesting question because it does change. I mean, it kind of like comes to a very elitist, almost, the orchestras. Like you say, you call highbrow, and I think that's the contrary of what we want to do. We want to just people just feel engaged and people feel inspired and just people just go there and enjoy. Sometimes just some people like to just enjoy without being disturbed. But the thing is that this comes with a tradition of many years ago in the I would say with the rise of the conducting and stars and conductor stars and soloist stars. And I'm talking about at the beginning of the 20th century. This is 1910, and on, when just also the recording industry came on. So just the recording industry and the music industry they just made this big fuss about the conducting stars and the soloist stars, and they insisted, oh no, people need to come here quietly and sit there and listen. And so that kind of that's where the highbrow just come. But funny enough, before that time, actually, it wasn't strange that audiences would react to what they were listening. Like they would be even cheering during the performance. Like if they would like something, they would be like, yoo-hoo! Or like they would be like clapping in the middle while the orchestra was performing. Or that if they didn't like something, they would just even like woo, just like in the middle while it was going on. Kind of like if you want, you might have an image of an old early Shakespeare theater.
Sure, yeah.
In which the audience was reacting to the theater, to what's going on in the stage, right?
Rotten Tomatoes and all that.
Exactly, and they were acting. No, don't go there. No, he had it. It was just kind of like there was this action going on. They were not sitting down and just quietly. It's just if you go to the theater now, they are not just yelling at the actors, like saying, "Hey, no, don't throw tomatoes." They are quietly sitting also, and that's kind of like a shifting that happened in all arts. It's the same thing with dance. So it was all the same thing that, like they sit down and just they are properly. But before, when funny enough, with this, some of the pieces that we are actually playing and performing right now in theater and dance and in with the orchestra and music, the audience reaction was expected to be completely different than it was right now. It's just, I think that the industry that changed that, and that's I mean, there is something that we need to say, like, it is something very unique to just be sitting and just listen to an orchestra, and all these people just reacting together, and just you want to tentatively listen to that. But it is sad when people just feel that that's put too many barriers for that, and that just if someone just makes a tiny little noise, other people are just looking around. What are you doing? You know, like or clapping out of time, like what are you doing? It's just, I think that's sad. I think that I wish there would be a little less of that.
Yeah, because I mean, I think that people, go to any type of music to get the feeling of joy, or I guess any emotion that they want to feel from the music, and I'm sort of anti getting upset with people for enjoying themselves
Exactly.
at art shows or music shows or anything like that. I think that you go to concerts to have a good time.
Exactly.
And who is the individual to shame you for having a good time?
No one. And just, like with orchestras, and happens with something with actually theaters or dance, or like it seems that these are like elitist art, but it's actually not. Just like when people give a chance to these organizations, to these performances, not just orchestra but other types, like I said, dance, theater, you name it, and they are surprised, and so of how much they love it and how much they engage with it. I remember someone came to a concert we did last year. It was just the back to rock, and we opened a contest, and we will do that again next year because it was very fun and successful. And so we opened a contest for anyone in Mansfield to just submit a song they singing a YouTube video, and then we asked people to vote, and so we invited the 5 people who got the most votes to sing with the Mansfield Symphony. And these were all kind of songs, pop and rock and whatever. There were Sting there was Radiohead, there was just something from musical. So it was just all kind of songs, and these were people who never had a music lesson. They were just singers from around town, no professionals. They were just like people who just like to sing. So it was great. So just, of course, we say in the final, which was the final of the competition, was singing with the Mansfield Symphony, and that the audience could be voting. And so of course each of these people just probably invited their friends, and that probably meant that they invited people who had probably never been in an orchestra concert before. And so, that's a fact. And so it was great to see all these people there. So many of them I didn't recognize from other concerts, seeing an orchestra performance before, like for the first time. And you could see that their reactions to some of the pieces was like that. So, like we were in the middle of a piece, and someone you would hear like wow, like woo, and that was great. And so I remember one person, one lady came after the performance and with tears in her eyes, and say, I've never experienced anything like this. I've never been in an orchestra concert before. I didn't know what an orchestra was before, and I just can't imagine. This is so great. This is so fantastic. And we play a combination of things these songs, and we play some very popular classic music, and some that it might be new to them. So it was just a kind of like a what you would expect in a holiday pops, but with classic pieces and songs, like popular songs. And so that was just fantastic to see someone telling me, that for the first time they came to an orchestra concert, and that was just something that they didn't know that existed. So.
A friend of mine that I went to the holiday pop concert with, I guess, didn't know that I knew things about music.
Mhm.
He was explaining to me the difference between pops and classical music. And he then said to me something that I actually hadn't heard, that there's sort of, and I'm sort of using layman's terms here because neither of us are experts in the field, but there's right now sort of a difficulty with orchestras coming up with what pieces are going to play because they get better crowds, or more crowds, I mean, with pops, but the music is maybe more fun to play or more challenging to play with classical music. Can you talk to me a little bit about that? Is that even a thing, what I'm describing to you?
Yeah, kind of. So I don't personally just have make any difference. I mean, I just like music, and I like conducting, and like orchestras, and I like audience. And I'm very passionate about all that. So when I go to a concert, to me it doesn't matter what the repertoire is. I'm always going to try to just make the best out of it, and just present it in the best way possible. Because I'm thinking of, like, we need to be touching someone in that concert. You're gonna be touching someone's heart, and someone is gonna be maybe just hearing that symphony for the first time, or that the orchestra. So everything that we do, we need to do it to the best of our abilities. Now, there are, like, in the orchestra season, there are like a part that is called pops, which is that's how the word describes, just the more popular music. And then the other one is classic, so what they call in some orchestras masterworks, in which they might be even as popular, but they are like maybe longer pieces, or they are more. That's the moment that you can just try to just put things that the audience might not know as well,
So basically, like, Jingle Bells would be a pops, and anything by Beethoven would be a classic.
Right, but and yes, that would be in a very broad way. So, but there are many pieces that the Beethoven wrote that they are very, very, very familiar to the audience and very popular.
Okay.
And even though, I mean, Beethoven is just one of the greatest composers, and very like serious composer, if you want. But many of the pieces that he wrote, they are ingrained in our culture. So if I do pa 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 pam, everybody just know how to answer to that.
Right.
And so it's one of the most famous music ever written, and that's Beethoven. So so that's, I think that what the challenge here is twofold. One is to give the audience something that they are going to recognize, also something that they are going to love, but they don't know that they love yet. So them is we need to educate the audience in ways that we just bring their taste further. So if you go to, it's kind of like going to a restaurant and letting the chef pick something for you, but the chef is good, and you're gonna eat good. You're gonna eat well. So the difference of doing that, or just going to McDonald's. So if you go to let the chef pick for you, you're gonna eat well, and maybe you have a hamburger too, but you might have something else, and or just eat hamburgers. That's one of the challenges, that just make sure that the audience don't feel afraid that what we're gonna feed them is not gonna be good, or they're not gonna like it. And so the way that I like to think about that is just I like hybrid concerts, in the sense of giving audience something that they recognize, or something that they're gonna be attracted to, and something that I know they're gonna like it, but they might not know yet.
At Richland Source, we compared that sort of hard news with positive news as Cheetos and whiskey and eating your vegetables.
Exactly. So you and the second challenge is just convincing musicians, administrators, and all around the world, and orchestras, that that is good for them too, because some of these popular maybe pieces, some musicians, some orchestras, some administrators might not think of them as the high art that they should be doing, because you know training to be a musician, training to be an orchestra player, it's a long and hard work and just a career. So just getting into that, it just takes a lot of practice. And some people just gets like, okay, I just practice all these hours and all these years in my life to not to play Jingle Bells. It's just so. But that's in my point of view, that's a very narrow view. You are not just only just playing Jingle Bells. You're bringing music to someone who might have not just heard music before. You are just playing music to someone who just actually just might love that, and just you are just interacting with that. You're just engaging and inspired that person. So it's not only playing to Jingle Bells. It's just is making beauty of that, and just making people just understand that there is also just more than that. But that you just musicians and administrators need to understand also the needs of the audience instead of just their own needs, and that's a little bit of a problem sometimes when you just need to convince orchestras that they need to do really well with that. I always just have a good example. That example that I often use is just the Berlin Philharmonic, and the Berlin Philharmonic is it's the best orchestra in the world. And many years ago, they were, right now it's a very they're full of young people there, but many years ago they had a lot of old people there, older people. Let's say a lot of white hairs and people in their 70s, late 70s playing there, and because of the tradition of the orchestra. So, but that they were those really amazing musicians. So I always say that a musician doesn't decide when to be a good musician. It's not like, okay, I'm gonna be a great musician playing Beethoven. I'm not just gonna play Jingle Bells, but I'm not gonna be my best. You don't decide that. You are always at your very best. Doesn't matter what it is. You always just give your very best. And that's the example that I use as the Berlin Philharmonic. You have these 70-plus-year-old people there that just barely just can walk to the stage. And then they did this concert, one of the first of its kind, with and if not the first, with Scorpions. The heavy metal or rock metal or whatever band. And not too many, just to my surprise, not too many people just know the Scorpions. Anyway, maybe young people. Scorpions, a rock heavy metal band, and so they are both on the same stage. Scorpions and the Berlin Philharmonic, this old orchestra, and you just see the lights, like all the the electric guitars, and just these young guys. Scorpions were very young with long hair and just jumping around the stage, and the fog, the smoke and all that. Like if it would be just a heavy metal rock, heavy metal concert, but it's in the stage of the Berlin Philharmonic. And you see these old people, and just you see them like barely just getting the violin together. And when they finally just get there, they start playing. They are like moving like crazy. Like they will be like, oh my God, they're digging it. They're like playing this like they are just like, if it could be the best music that they've played. They are moving, just playing. They're like engaged. They're doing their very best. And these are, like I say, this is maybe 20, 30 years ago. And these people, probably, they never heard heavy metal before and never after.
Right.
And they were probably, these people just knew some of the major composers of the 20th century. And they were with the best people, but they didn't care. They were just playing there, and they were just doing the very best. And they were not deciding, okay, this is just no music that I don't like, and just not gonna just do my very best. And that's my point, that we musicians and art administrators and so on, and we just need to just always just put the best in every situation, understand the audience, give them what they like, teach them what they might like, and just move forward together as a community.
So let's switch gears to Mansfield. You have 2 upcoming shows in the near future, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Could you talk to us a little bit about what those are?
Yeah, this is funny that we just came into, like how the things round into this conversation. The next one in March, we have the Elton John tribute. So this is a band that we were talking about the Scorpions. Now we're talking about Elton John, and it's very similar situation. So we have this cover band from Canada, which are fantastic. I've done something with them before. I did the Beatles tribute, and so they come with these singers that sound better than Elton John. I mean, they sing better. It's just they are fantastic musicians. They bring their players, their singers, the back singers, and we play the best Elton John and the most well-known Elton John songs, and with that you have this not only beautiful and band and that they sing and dance great, and you have the entire Mansfield Symphony in the background just accompanying that. So that's gonna be a great show for.
How much fun is it to do that with to sort of mix almost like mixing media, you know?
Yeah, right.
Like, obviously Rocket Man and Goodbye Yellow Brick Road are so very different than your average orchestral movement. Talk to me a little bit about, maybe your excitement as getting to be the conductor, or even just as someone who's in the orchestra.
I think it's really to me it's really exciting, and I think for the musicians will be also excited because these are songs that we all know, these are songs that Elton John have had a very long career, and some of these songs, they span many generations actually. So many people in the orchestra, they just sing this song. They sound this song and they somehow they have some attachments to these songs, and that's fantastic. Now you are playing them, and these songs are also many of these great songs and famous songs. They have a symphonic ringing into them, and it's music after all. Like I said before, when you just bring together the symphonic genre with a pop genre, it creates a really great cluster, and it's a great combination. And to me, it's it's fun to just conduct that kind of things. It's just like I said, songs that I know and I know that people love, and it's just completely different than what I do, which is great. And I think that this could be a perfect concert for anyone in Mansfield, but for our regular patrons, and to hear the orchestra and to hear something that they don't know, and actually for anyone who just know a little bit Elton John to just hear those songs and with a great orchestra. So I think it's gonna be fun. I think, isn't it a movie just coming up now? Also, biopic of Elton John too. Rocket Man is the movie. Rocket Man.
Is that right? Oh, I hadn't heard that. But
yeah, I just forgot.
Study up before you go to the concert then.
Yeah,
like.
I think it's around this time or maybe I don't know when, but so it's just very appropriate. So
yeah. Well, so then what's happening after that?
And then we close the season in May, and the concert in May. That's we feature our choir. And so we pick a piece for choir and orchestra that is beautiful, and that the choir will sound fantastic, and that the choir will love because they are already working on it, singing, and the title is Forest Requiem, and even though it's just the requiem and just it have all this, probably a requiem. The word requiem, just one can feel like somber or just a little darker maybe, but this is a very light and beautiful and very melodic and just something that people will love, and so it's just kind of like the music, and of course the text describes that, but the music itself, it is the complete opposite of the dark that you expect on a requiem. This is a very it will touch your heart, this music, and it's just with beautiful melodies and beautiful sounds coming from the choir. So yeah.
How often?
The second part, the second part of the orchestra of that concert actually features Camille Saint-Saëns Symphony Number 3, which is with organ. It will feature our organ, and it's kind of completely different in the sense of this is of the first part. It's just a glorious symphony. It's just like every sound is just really, especially at the end, it gets these loud sounds, very festive and very just triumphal and just amazing. Just every time that I perform that piece, it's just there is an outstanding ovation, like from the end. It's just like from the like the moment that you just finish, just the second that you finish, everybody's on their feet, because it's very bright and it's just very enthusiastic piece, which I think is very appropriate and for to finish the symphony in a very happy and upbeat mood.
Yeah, it sounds very exciting. I'm excited to hear both of those shows or concerts, excuse me. And I understand that the organ is a pretty special one. Mm-hmm. Is that correct?
Yes. I don't know all the history of the organ. I know went through some renovation and it's a very has a very good history, and that it really has a really great sound, and I just can't wait to actually just put it to work with the orchestra and to see how everything blends, and the organ itself is used for concerts through this season. So we have this guest organist that comes and just does this different concerts with the organ alone, which I think is fantastic. And then now I'm just really looking forward to just see how just all those big and beautiful sounds of the organ fit with our wonderful Mansfield Symphony.
Let's talk a little bit about the symphony again. How many people are in that symphony who are from Mansfield? I think I remember hearing it's a pretty high percentage.
Yeah, it's a very high percentage. There is a lot of people that come from Mansfield, from the surroundings, of course, as well. And we are the younger people tend to be from maybe from Cleveland and from we have some from Columbus. We have some people that actually they did this kind of like round in their careers, that they started just playing with the Mansfield Symphony Youth Orchestra, and they've been just they've gone to just train outside, to other parts, and now they've come back because they live around, and they audition and they're good, and they just won positions with the Mansfield Symphony. So there is just this tradition that will continue to stay with those people that are from the area, and so I think that's a great feeling to have people who's just local. Yeah.
Yeah, so as a music reporter with Richland Source, I've gotten the chances to meet with a lot of different musicians, including the conductor of the Mansfield Jazz Orchestra or the Richland Academy, which is right across the street from us. It seems like, to me at least, it seems like a really great place for someone to sort of get to learn orchestral music or learn instruments other than, rock instruments.
Right.
Can you talk to me? Do you think that that's sort of helped maybe not necessarily, but potentially bring people into your symphony, but also help people around here understand and appreciate the kind of music that you all are putting together?
Absolutely. I think that that's actually just that's the truth for the orchestra, but actually, but also with the Renaissance actually, and with everything that is going on there. Like I think that in a town, the size of Mansfield, to have something like the Renaissance, that's very unique.
Absolutely.
And it's not only the Renaissance. We have Renaissance. We have the Richland Academy, and we have the theater downtown. We have so many things going on around here that many that I don't even know, just because I'm just still getting to know the community. But this is a very artsy community that is bringing a lot of things all the time. And
it's sort of unusual, isn't it?
Yes,
this is not what you'd expect for a town of roughly 40,000 people.
Yes,
in the middle of almost nothing. I mean, we're far enough away, I guess, from Cleveland and Columbus that I sort of expected before I got here that all of the sort of musical people would be in either Cleveland or Columbus, but they're staying here, which is awesome.
Right, and so that's incredible. And actually, we're not that far from either Columbus or Cleveland, which that you can go there. So you are, while you are not competing, firsthand, but that's still just something that is not on your way. It's just that they could just go there instead of coming here. I mean,
right.
They do a date night, and just you go to Cleveland or Columbus and come back, but we have all these beautiful and great things going on. So coming back to the orchestra, yeah, I think that it is very important, not only what's going on I think that the orchestra, the MSO, the Mansfield Symphony, could be at the top, and from there you should just consider where are things that are just going into it. So we have the Mansfield Symphony Youth Orchestra, which is a great youth orchestra that attracts young people from around, and some come from even an hour away or even more. And then I've gone to some high schools around, and there are some really great programs, and some of them, they have very good and large orchestra programs. And so that we are all feeding each other. So it starts in the high schools. It starts with goes to the youth orchestra, and then it goes to Mansfield Symphony. So all this symphony tradition and all this music tradition, of course, it reflects on the Mansfield Symphony and in all of us. I think that's great. And this comes to the beginning of our conversation. It's just like my little town. That's how they did it. It's just you were born into this family, and that belonged to this music organization, and you want it or not, you start going to concerts. Like, since I remember, I was a kid. I was going to concerts, and that keeps going, and it keeps going. It becomes a tradition, and even if you don't become a professional musician, you still have that, and that's how you just create audience. That's how you just create interest in the community, and that's how you just educate the community. That's how the community gets more a sophisticated taste in music, if you want, or they have a diverse interest in music, if you want. But yeah, starting from the very very young ages and up to where we are right now here.
Well, fantastic. Before I let you go, Octavio, can you give me the dates of the March of May concert?
Oh, yeah, for sure. So our March concert is on March 23rd, and our May concert is just May 11th, and both of them are at Renaissance Theater at 8 o'clock.
Fantastic. Well, Octavio, thank you so very much for joining me today on the Open Mic Podcast. It was a blast.
Thank you. Anytime. It's a pleasure.